I'd now like to invite our first group of panelists to come to the stage, as well as Bill van Amberg from CALSTART, who will be chairing the discussion.
If I can have all of our panelists please join us up on stage, that would be wonderful, and we'll get started here as soon as they do. This is such an exciting day, a phenomenal day when you really think about it. And I think Minister Harrison made this point. We often talk about being at a threshold or a crossroads, but we are right now beyond the crossroads. Sometimes you get blocked at crossroads, they hold you back. We are moving forward on a new path with clarity, an ambitious but achievable goal to reach clean air, decarbonization, and net zero for transport. This is what we're pushing forward to, and for the first time ever, through these two coordinated agreements, we have for road transport, cars, vans, buses, and trucks, a unified global goal, a new standard that puts us on the pathway, as we said, to not just 100% zero emissions, but meeting our Paris requirements, meeting, if we can, 1.5 C or below, but this puts us finally in the transport sector, the on-road sector, to do that. So for the first time for all nations, we have a global standard to follow and to track. Now let us hear from some of the signatories and endorsers who are making this possible, who are the first movers, who are really signing up to push us down this path. And we have a couple questions for this panel today. What is your country or company doing to support a fast transition to ZEVs? And what is the biggest benefit of that transition? Because this is really about creating a new future for transport and for our lives and jobs. So we're very honored to have a great panel. And if I can, let's start first today with Trudy Harrison, Minister in Department for Transport from the United Kingdom, who just spoke with us. The UK has been leapfrogging these deadlines up. It has been so fantastic to see. And last year, you announced an ambitious intention to end the sale of new petrol and diesel cars by 2030. How have you seen this announcement benefit the automotive industry in the UK?
Thank you, and thank you really to everybody who's made this milestone pledge at COP26. It is truly inspiring to see governments and industry come together and agree measures to decarbonise road transport within a generation. I'm particularly encouraged by the leadership being shown by the vehicle manufacturers Volvo and Scania, who are sitting on this panel with me today. For so long, the motor car has been emblematic of rising carbon emissions and the damage that human activity inflicts on our planet. Now we have the opportunity to transform that image, for zero-emission cars to become symbolic of our awakening to climate change, of our duty to reverse rising global temperatures as a matter of supreme urgency. Today marks a tipping point in the transition to clean road transport. We've really seen the momentum build over the last 18 months in the run-up to COP. And now it's time to start turning those good intentions into action. So some of the actions that we in the UK have been taken following the launch of the Prime Minister's 10-point plan for a green industrial revolution, where point 4 of that list was a commitment to zero-emission vehicles. We've banned the sale of all petrol and diesel cars and vans from 2030. And we're committed that all vehicles to be sold, all cars and vans to be sold from 2035 will be zero emission. Building on the £1.9 billion we announced last year, we've committed an additional £620 million to support the transition of electric vehicles. And this will continue to roll out the charging infrastructure. We have 26,000 public charge points available today. 4,900 of those are rapid chargers, but it isn't enough. So we've announced a further commitment towards rolling out that infrastructure across the country, and a further £350 million to electrify our supply chain, to create jobs and secure a competitive future for the sector. Through our zero-emission Vehicle Transition Council and international work, we're collaborating with manufacturers and other automotive markets to accelerate transition. And we've really seen dramatic progress, with 1 in 7 of all new vehicles sold in the UK having a plug on them. In particular, UK car manufacturers have been actively supportive of phase-out dates for petrol and diesel, and consumers are much more aware that this is the decade when everything changes. COP26, I'm sure, will accelerate preparations further. Of course, we still have a lot of work to do, bringing more partners on board, but we are incredibly confident of meeting our targets.
Thank you so much. Because we do feel at COP, despite some of the talk outside, tremendous momentum. We're really hitting that point. If I could move next to Volvo Cars, and we have the CEO, Håkan Samuelsson, who is here with us today. Volvo has been a real leader in this space in committing, and one of the first automakers to come forward and say, we will be 100% zero emissions coming very soon. By 2030 is where you will be electrifying all of your platforms. What does this mean to your company to be on this leading edge?
I mean, if you look into transportation, I think it's around 10% of all the CO2 emissions. So it's definitely, we should be a part of the solution. And I think the car industry so far have been too reactive. We should be much more proactive. And with electrification, I also believe we have a very good solution. Not just solving the environmental problem, which I think is not enough. We should also create more attractive products for our consumers, because then the process will be accelerated. And then consumers like electric cars. So I think we have come to a point where we should stop in discussing and trying to find other solutions. I mean, the grass is not greener on the other side. It's very green on this side, and we should now start electrifying our companies. And I think also it's a great opportunity for the car industry in Europe, and for sure we have come to the mindset it's great for our company. This is an opportunity, and it makes our company stronger, and we can deliver products consumers, especially future consumers, will like to buy. I think that's really important, because if we can have the market working for better environmental performance, it would be a great support instead of trying to delay it. So we have made electrification and sustainability part of our business, base business, because I think you need to integrate it. You cannot just say, okay, let's make a couple of electric cars, but otherwise we continue as before. We need to make it a purpose, and I think we have experience with that. Exactly in that way we have been working with safety, and it's part of the core of our company, and the electric cars will in the same way be a core part of our business, and it will make our company also more attractive for future talents and for future consumers.
Excellent, and that is such a strong statement. Let's end the debate, let's move on and implement and get it done. Powerful words. Let's go next to a big operator of vehicles on the global stage, Annabel Diaz. She's the Regional General Manager for Europe, the Middle East, and Africa for Uber. Uber has introduced several initiatives, Annabel, supporting a fleet-wide transition to zero-emission vehicles. What has the reaction to this been, and what has been the benefit for your business?
Yeah, well, first of all, we must all embrace this once-in-a-generation opportunity to clean up urban transport. And actually, Uber, we will play our part. And we have set ambitious targets in line with this declaration, which include to be an emission-free mobility platform by 2030 in Europe and North America. This means that drivers on our platform will need to become the early mass adopters of EVs. And this is already happening. Actually, the drivers in Europe are switching much faster than the average consumer. The EV uptake in our platform is nearly 5 times quicker in key European countries. The percentage of kilometers driven on our app coming from EVs reached just over 4% in the first half of this year, in Europe specifically, which is a doubling in a year. But we do recognize that we need to increase this pace, and there is still a lot to do. So we will redouble our efforts to help drive EV adoption. This climate issue, this transportation issue, is definitely a team sport, and we can't do this alone. Our success will be defined by how we work with the private sector, with the governments, with the cities, to make it cheaper for the drivers to adopt EVs. Our goal is to do this in countries all around the world. And this transition has to be available and achievable for everyone as quickly as possible. We will learn from the cities we operate all over the world, and we will translate best practices to basically ensure that the transition to EVs is a just one.
Great. And that is so powerful, because this is also part of the new business model for how people will move around, and it must be electrified. Let's move on to our next panelist, and it's a particular delight for me, because being a Californian, I can welcome another Californian, Leanne Randolph. She's the chair of the California Air Resources Board, really one of the most influential agencies in the world, but coming from a subnational. Some people view California as a nation state. But it was one of the first state in the United States of America to announce a transition to zero-emission cars and vans in 2035, and has also committed to this significant goal for heavy-duty vehicles to be 100% zero emissions by 2040. Indeed, our global MOU is built on the backbone of what California has done with their advanced clean truck rule. Chair Randolph, what does the transition to clean vehicles mean for California across all modes?
In California, we are moving full speed ahead towards the zero-emission transportation future, because it's critical to achieving both our climate targets and protecting public health. We're working closely across government and the private sector and communities to meet that 100% zero emission target that was set boldly by Governor Newsom. Our governor and legislature recently passed a historic budget, committing almost $4 billion over the next 3 years to transportation electrification, both vehicles and infrastructure. These funds will scale the zero-emission market towards sustainability, increase access to zero-emission vehicles for all communities, and provide emissions reductions to those communities that are most impacted by heavy-duty transportation. Our agency is developing the next generation of clean car regulations, which will increase the market share of electric vehicles as well as clean up the last of the gasoline cars. And we have adopted the first in the world zero-emission, legally enforceable truck manufacturing regulation, and are adopting a complementary regulation that will put an end to medium and heavy-duty combustion sales in California by 2040. Through partnerships with other US states that follow our clean air standards and our clean vehicle rules, the actions we take in California effectively send market signals to about 40% of the US market. We are helping to ensure a broadly based national zero-emission vehicle market. And we're proud to be working with partners around the world to coordinate global efforts to decarbonize the transport sector, including through today's joint declaration and memorandum of understanding. As for the benefits we are experiencing as a result of that transition, electric vehicles were California's largest single export in 2020, and we are coming up on 1 million zero-emission vehicles sold in the state. And it's good business. We are seeing the private sector step up and work hard to make this transition. And even more critical than these economic benefits are the impacts to air quality and the public health benefits that will protect our most vulnerable communities. And that is what truly inspires this transition. And so looking forward to working with all of you as we operationalize this work. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And I think what is so powerful is some of the next jobs are going to be good jobs and need in infrastructure to get out there to actually support the vehicles, in the vehicles, but also the infrastructure side, which I know is a big concern to our next panelist, but also an opportunity. And he is Christian Levin. He is the CEO of Scania. Representing Scania today, he also is the CEO of the Traton Group. You notice you're the only truck maker up here, and that is wonderful because you have stepped out so far. Last year, Scania pledged to phase out diesel by 2040, along with several other European truck makers. But then you stepped up farther in your commitments on zero emissions and your timeline for it. And you have even launched line haul or long haul trucks that will come to market in 2023. Why did you make this decision, and what does it mean for Scania's business?
Thank you, Bill. Yes, as you said, we are the leader in the sustainability journey in our industry, then representing heavy commercial vehicles since many years. And as such, we have, for instance, developed a full range of alternative fuel vehicle program. And since 2019, we're working according to science-based targets, and doing so, we realized that the only way forward is electrification. And we have invested heavily into that technology ever since. And we are actually, not many know it, but we are serial producing heavy commercial trucks in our factory in Södertälje alongside with the ICE engines. Limited today to 28 tons, but as Bill just said, already by 2023, we see that technology is ready for 40-ton, which traditional long haulage transport in Europe. We announced a couple of weeks ago that we are together with a logistic company in Sweden, Jula, developing a 64-ton truck. And actually today we are announcing together with SCA, the giant paper pulp timber company in Sweden, that we're building a timber truck that is capable of transporting 80 ton in North Sweden under the most difficult conditions, just to prove that the technology is ready. And then to answer on your question, why are we signing? Well, it feels very natural for us to endorse this MOU because the technology will not be the bottleneck. So with that, of course, I also have a couple of asks. And as California is doing, we need to make sure that the transporters find a suitable business case in investing in this technology. So a price on carbon is badly needed. Another thing is, of course, the grid. We need to make sure that our customers can charge. That is the first question we receive when we discuss electric truck, and that is along the roads as well as in their depots. And of course, finally, up until the point the transition happens, it's extremely important that we don't lose focus on the alternative fuels, the biofuels, the HVOs, because that can do a great part of the decarbonization work awaiting for when the park is fully electrified. So now we call upon countries and governments to work alongside with us to put down a roadmap, market by market, and then I think we can actually be ready well ahead of 2040. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. That was inspiring, and thank you, because this is what we need to do, is put our shoulder down and work it. I am delighted, actually, to welcome our final panelist for first comments. The nation of Turkey is actually a signatory to both the declaration and the MOU, so covering the waterfront. And joining us today is Mr. Orhan Solak, who is with he's the Director General of the Presidency of Climate Change for Turkey. Turkey has signed the MOU and and the declaration. You also have a robust manufacturing industry in transport, both for components and for vehicles. What does this transition to zero emissions then mean for Turkey? Why is it so important?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. As we all know, the mobility sector is the second largest sector that causes carbon dioxide emissions. With the increasing urbanization and population, the importance and necessity of advanced mobility vehicles and technologies are increasing each passing day. New technologies are rapidly transforming traditional structures dating back to the last century. In this context, electric mobility is undoubtedly one of the most prominent concepts. As Turkey, we believe that call for mobility will create a significant leverage effect in achieving the goals set under this roadmap. In the mobility roadmap, some of the targets we have set for 2030 are as follows: reaching at least 75% localization rate in electrical vehicle, having 35% market share for electric vehicle sales in total, installation of 250,000 charging sockets, completing charging infrastructure in electrical vehicles, being the leader in Europe and one of the top 5 in the world in the production of electric, connected and autonomous light and heavy commercial vehicles, being a regional battery production center. As you can see, our targets for zero-emission vehicles are in full compliance with this declaration and MOU that we have launched today. And as Turkey, we are pleased to be a part of these initiatives. Another significance of these initiatives comes also from the international cooperation they will provide in the upcoming period. As the customs union partner of the EU, Turkey exports 80% of its automotive production to the EU member states. Therefore, we are closely following the EU regulations and carrying out simultaneous transposition of the EU legislation. Last but not least, we support the declaration and the MOU since they will accelerate meeting the goals of the Paris Agreement. By involving a wide range of representatives of major automotive industries, these two initiatives take the transition to zero-emission vehicles to a global scale. Recent studies show that an ambitious zero-emission vehicle transition may conclude a 61% reduction in CO2 emissions worldwide as of 2050. This is a huge potential, and as Turkey, we are excited about the positive contribution we can make to climate change globally, as well as realizing our national goals through all kinds of bilateral and multilateral cooperation aimed at the transition to zero-emission vehicles. As I end my remarks here, I would like to express my gratitude on behalf of my country to all parties who contributed to the preparation of this declaration and MOU and the organization of this event. And I respectfully greet you all. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And I think what we're hearing here is so powerful. We know we need to do it. We must act for climate. We must do it for the clean air in our cities, which must happen at the same time. But we also must do it for our new economy and for moving our people together forward. And I think we're hearing powerful economic reasons and industrial reasons why this makes so much sense. We have just a few moments left, but I would like to actually ask for some quick comments from our panelists on what do we need to be working together on next. We've heard about infrastructure, there's finance, there's other things. I'd like to quickly get, Minister Harrison, may we speak with you first on that?
Certainly, and thank you for the challenge. I think it is many things, but certainly sharing data, sharing an understanding of infrastructure rollout will be particularly helpful for countries all over the world as we transition from a fossil-fueled economy to a decarbonised economy, particularly in relation to transport and actually across all modes, ensuring that this is of benefit to not just the environment, to society. For us in the UK, it's about levelling up and making sure that all parts of the UK benefit from the changes that we're bringing in enthusiastically and with swift action.
Thank you so much. Håkan, any thoughts that you'd like to share on what do we need to do next and faster?
Yeah, it's, if you look, if we now have electric cars, of course, then infrastructure for charging has been said many times. I'm not too nervous about that. I think the market will solve that as cars come out on the road. But the big elephant is, of course, the primary energy need to be fossil-free. And that's where I think also is the beauty of such a clear declaration, because if we now say end date, I think we will also have to start thinking about the primary energy. I think that's good. We have to work then also in the supply chain, because we have a lot of embedded CO2 in our cars. We'll need to look into how to produce steel fossil-free, and we do that together with SSAB. And very important, battery production must also be fossil-free, otherwise you will build in more than you gain with the car. And that's where we also work then with Northvolt. So it's embedded CO2 in the whole supply chain, and primary energy, I think, are the big things we need now to really work with together.
Excellent. And the benefits of a unified goal that we can all follow gives us clarity on where we need to go. Annabelle, some quick thoughts from you.
Yeah, well, I can only insist on the topic of infrastructure development, availability, and different solutions for EV charging. This is actually one of the main bottlenecks our commercial drivers still face when switching to an EV, and making the cost of operating an EV still higher than a traditional car in many, many cities and countries around the world. That's a fundamental topic. But alongside that topic, also keep developing enabling policies that will make this transition, and the transition to, in general, an efficient transportation network that the technology can allow, possible and fast. Because we need to really think mobility, thinking multimodal, and thinking integration of systems.
Thank you so much. And thinking of going faster, our panel is almost to an end, but if I can have some quick thoughts, first from Chair Randolph.
I think in this transition, we need to be very mindful of equity. We need to make sure that these new vehicles are available to as many folks as possible. And we need to be mindful of sourcing our materials, reusing and recycling our materials in ways that don't impact vulnerable communities even further. So we need to have a clear mind towards equity as we do this work. Excellent point. Christian?
Yes, no one buys a commercial vehicle because they like it. They buy it as a piece of production equipment, part of a logistic chain, and they need to get the total cost of ownership, the famous TCO right, so that they get return on investment. I think that'll be the biggest challenge, that we make sure that it's a good business case to go completely fossil-free and zero emission. That's our biggest challenge, and that requires that we work together across all sectors and with policymakers.
Yeah, and that's why this global alignment is so important, that it's not just for cars, it's not just for vans, it's for buses, trucks, and across on-road.
Exactly.
Final thoughts, if we can, from Mr. Solak on this point. What do we need to push forward faster and do it now?
Yes, of course, there are important barriers and challenges in this MOU and declaration when we are looking, such as higher electrical vehicle prices compared to low-cost internal combustion engine vehicles. Lack of the regulation is another issue, and inadequate charging infrastructure and lack of public awareness. These are important issues. However, we also have great opportunities in making this transition quicker, easier, and cheaper for all. We believe that much progress will be made both in the production and electrical vehicles, and also on the side of charging a legal infrastructure by means of a strong international collaboration needed for this purpose.
All right. Well, thank you so much. We clearly now have a global goal. We have a North Star. We've moved past the crossroads that were holding us back, and we've moved down the path. It's clear, it's hard, it's achievable. And I think even a few years ago, we would have thought heavy-duty trucks in northern Sweden carrying logs, it can be done. And if it can be done there, we take off the table this talk of difficult duty cycles that maybe we can't electrify. We can. But we need to put our shoulders to the wheel and get it done. So this is so exciting for us. The job is now we're past the crossroads. Now it's time to implement. We are dedicated to it. With the MOU, we will be working with the existing first signatories, but adding more signatories over the next year. So thank you so much. Let's really thank our panelists of First Movers. They have done such a great job in giving us this idea. And I hand the floor, Helen, back over to you.